What's good, you guys? Thanks for tuning in. This is Golden Beats, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you 4 great techniques you can use to add some vintage vibe to your mix. So let's get straight into it. The first technique I'm going to show you is by using Maximus, and with Maximus I'm going to apply some saturation to my mix to introduce some vintage vibe to my mix. So on Maximus I'm going to use only 3 parameters, which is the saturation threshold and the saturation ceiling, and of course the LMH mix knob. So I'm only going to work with the mid band. So I'm gonna turn off the low band and turn off the high band, and I'm also going to bypass compression on the mid band. So let's go to monitor. So what I'm going to do is to apply some saturation to my mix by using the threshold and the ceiling. So the threshold have 2 types of saturation, which is mode A and mode B. So I'm going to use mode A and turn the saturation threshold all the way to the left. And then I'm going to turn down the saturation ceiling until I find the sound I want. So let's play the mix. So that's the sound I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do next is to turn down the LMH mix parameter, and this parameter is similar to the parameter you will find on Sound Goodizer. So when you turn this parameter all the way to the left, it will allow the tri-signal to pass through without processing. And when you turn it all the way to the right, the output signal of Maximus will be the processed signal. So I'm going to use the LMH mix parameter to blend in this saturated signal with the original signal to give me that analog vibe or that vintage warmth. So let's play the mix. And that sounds absolutely amazing, right? So what you also can do is to add back gain after a little bit of gain reduction using the post gain of the master target. So let's boost it with about 1 dB, just to do a little bit of gain match. So let's do a little bit of comparisons. And that sounds absolutely amazing. If you listen to this using headphones or your studio monitors, you will be able to hear the difference as day and night. So that's one technique you can use to add some analog warmth or some vintage warmth to your mix. So let's go to our second plugin. Our second plugin is the Fruity Fast Distortion. So what I like to do with the Fruity Fast Distortion is to distort the signal and blend in that distorted signal using the mix parameter. So I'm going to leave the mix parameter all the way to 100% just to hear the effect before I blend that signal back with the original signal. Let's turn down this threshold and gradually bring up the threshold until I find the sound I want. So now I'm going to turn down the mix knob and blend in that signal with the original signal. So when you apply this technique to your mixes, you have to be very subtle. So I'm going to gently and subtly mix in that signal with the original signal. So I'm going to start off with about 10%. that sounds really amazing, right? So that's just another technique you can use to add some vintage vibe to your mix. The third technique is by using the Fruity compressor within Picture. But before I show you this technique, please check this out. If you are new to mixing and mastering and want to improve your mixes, we have some great bundle packs you can use to help you get industry standard sounding mixes like this FL Studio professionally prepared mastering presets bundle, which contains 30 FL Studio advanced mastering presets to master your mixes in FL Studio. You can also get Goldenum's Mixbox, which is a all-in-one mixing and mastering presets bundle, and thus professionally prepared vocal effect templates, which contains 10 different vocal effects you can use to get great sounding vocals and much more. If you want to improve your mixes, this is worth checking out. The links is in the description. So the third technique is basically parallel compression. So what I'm going to do with the Fruity compressor is to heavily compress the signal, and so compressed that it goes into distortion. So what I'm going to do is to set the ratio all the way to 30.0/1, attack 0.0 milliseconds, release 1 millisecond, type of compression vintage, and then I'm going to turn down the threshold until the signal distorts. So let me deactivate the original signal so that we can only listen to the effect I want to blend in with the original signal using the Fruity compressor. So let's turn down the threshold. And that's exactly the type of sound I'm looking for. So now I'm going to turn down the volume of the Fruity balance and blend in this distorted signal very gently and subtly with the original signal to give you that vintage warmth. So let me activate the original signal and blend the distorted signal back with the original signal using the volume knob of the Fruity balance. So let's play it. So let's do a little bit of comparisons. And this is just another technique you can use to add some vintage vibe to your mix. The fourth and last plugin is the Fruity Waveshaper. And with the Fruity Waveshaper, I like to set the point to about 50% and turn up the tension all the way to 100%. Let me just turn down the post gain. So let's play the mix. So now I'm going to use the mix parameter to blend in that distorted signal subtly and gently with the original signal to give you that analog or that vintage warmth. So let's play the mix. only blend in their distorted signal with about 3%, right? So like I said, you have to be subtle when you use this technique on your mixes, because you don't want the effect to be audible in your mix. You only want it to warm up your mix to give it that vintage vibe. So that's the 4 techniques I use to add some analog or some vintage vibe to my mix, right? So if you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, smash that notification bell to get notified in all future tutorials. This is Golden Beats. Thanks for watching. God bless.